Hey, it's Roy Richardson, your friendly neighborhood tech Troublemaker, and of course I've got the volume 2 lab. Luckily I got a button for that, and we're going to talk about the art of interviewing people. So whether you have a podcast, whether you go YouTube Live, whether you do recordings, if you interview people, this is an opportunity to really beef up your skills, and we're going to talk about some tips. And who better to have on here to do that than Doc Rock? How you doing,
Yo,
sir?
what is happening? What is happening here? Let me stop this up real quick. I had you accidentally pinging in the other ear because I was busy sending out a tweet. I was sending out the tweet.
Like, get over here already. Yeah, so
What's happening?
yeah,
What's happening?
oh
This is
man.
cool.
Yeah, Doc, I have followed you for a long time, and then of course with you being the Ecamm Community Manager, Ecamm, I'm an OG on Ecamm. I bought it back when it was a standalone product because I used Ecamm Call Recorder, and then they emailed me one day and said, "Hey, would you like to be able to go live on Facebook?" And well, I don't know that I need to do that, but yeah, I'll buy this product, and so I bought it. It was like a good price at the time, but just has continued to get better. But this is not an Ecamm episode. This is about about interviewing people. So, and I know that you're interviewing folks all the time, definitely for your podcast and with Katie and everything that you do. So yeah, we did not coordinate. I wore my Flow shirt. We did not coordinate. So that just happened. So there you go.
There's an accident.
Accident. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do some sharing because sharing means caring, and I want to talk about some tips about interviewing, and then of course I'm going to hit Doc up with some questions because that's how we do stuff here. So hang on. It's I love when the computer goes insane right when you're getting ready to go live. Hey, let's do something here. All right, let's do this. Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. All right. So here's some tips for ways to really do your best on interviews. First of all, research your topic, research your guest. So, I mean, definitely. So, before I got Doc go on the show, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do some research and just find out." So, like for example, Doc, did you ever publish that book?
No, I have not.
Okay. I know you did NAMO a few years ago, and I know you were working on a book. So then the other thing is, I'm guilty of that. How many domains have you had for different things, blogs and everything like that? I'm like,
Man, oh my goodness. I thought for a while that I was probably single-handedly what was the original domain? Not Netscape. Before GoDaddy came in, what was the
Network
original, guys?
Solutions.
Network Solutions. There you go.
Yeah.
I felt I was keeping the lights on in the office because I was buying domains like nobody's business. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was just thinking like all the ones I've registered, like it's Broken Dreams and 404 screens. So,
That's so good. That should be the name of the book. No, so I got into NaNoWriMo, and strangely enough, I got into it because I wanted to get better at writing. I was writing at TUAW at the time, the unofficial Apple weblog, and I ran across this guy named Buster Benson. He made a site called 750 Words. And so that's when I started my journaling practice, where you basically write 750 words a day. They got morning pages. I hope all the writer people know these things. And so in doing that, I started a blog called In My Skine, which is about writing in your Moleskine. And right behind me there, wrong shelf, right behind me there is a stack of Moleskine right there. Inside this cabinet, there's a stack 5X that, because I've just been still doing it ever since until Rocketbook came along like 2 years ago.
yeah. Cool stuff. Yeah. All right. Prepare a list of questions. So this is like duh, but yeah. So you definitely need to be prepared with questions ahead of time. This is definitely not something. I mean, I am sure you are always prepared, but at the same time, you have so much experience that you probably can go off the cuff. But definitely, if that's not in your comfort level, you need to prep some questions ahead of time. Do you have advice on what people can do to kind of help in that process of creating questions?
I think the most important one And this is going to sound so simple, but it's not as simple as you think. You need to be genuinely curious. I mean, like it's really, really helpful. When we did our mastering interview class, right? I sent you guys a clip of the guy, Philip, who was interviewing Bruce Lee like way back in 1970.
Mm.
And Philip was like a 5-year-old kid. He was real. Wait a minute. So you guys trained that long in order to be wow, I can, I mean, the look in his face
Yeah.
is almost better than the interview because you can tell he meant every single question from the bottom of his heart. The other thing I say, like if you're coming in, I'm looking at like say Steve Worthy, right? If I'm going to do an interview with Steve Worthy, I'm going to ask questions that I know my audience would ask Steve if they had the chance to ask Steve. Like, why, of all the cities in Manchester to pick a team, would you pick the wrong side? Why would you pick United? Why in the heck would you pick City? That's really stupid. So my audience would want to know that. So I'm going to ask Steve a question like that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Next up, start with easy and open-ended questions. So I watched interviews. People are asking yes or no questions like, what are you thinking? It's a yes or no question. There's not gonna be any follow-up. There's not gonna be, you know, do you play chess? Yes. I mean, is there a follow-up question to go with that? I mean, what the heck's going on with that? So I mean,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, so if you're interviewing somebody and they are just dead, just cold fish, just don't have anything to say at all. I mean, what's your approach to dealing with an interview guest like that? They just don't have anything to say.
Okay, so I'm asking you questions, and you're on my second question where you gave me a dud answer. Here's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna listen. I got a whole bunch more questions for you. But before we go down this list, I was noticing that you have that Google thing on your wall behind you. Like, what's the story behind that? Like, how are you connected with Google? Is just, please explain.
Yeah. So like for that, so that came from a Google Mini appliance. I have so I haven't worked for Google, but in a lot of ways I might as well have because as I was mentioning the other night, I sold my digital soul to Google 20 something years ago, and because of that, I've been in a lot of beta programs. I got when they shipped out the first 60,000 Chromebooks, I got one of the CR48s. I was in that group, and so I've been in a lot of beta test groups and focus groups, and I've just done a lot of stuff with Google over the years, and they've sent me so many trinkets, so many Google Minis, Google TVs. It's just stuff. They just send me free stuff. It'll just show up all of a sudden out of the blue. I'm like, so yeah, so obviously I've done a good job. Now, granted, after I went all iPhone on them, they've slowed down on me. They don't send me as much cool stuff, but that's kind of where it is. And so, working for an enterprise, we needed a search appliance to go through documents and stuff, and so that's where that came from. I just when it died, that came with it.
But you see what I mean? Like when you ask someone to tell a story, it's really hard to give a no answer. But the key element, and I almost did it, which I get really mad when, when people do this. I almost did it. I almost asked you a second question, and I almost led how I was expecting you to answer because I was positioning as if you were coming from being still. So it's really hard to do, but try your best not to answer the question for the people when you ask them, right? They'll be like,
Yeah.
hey, what kind of microphone is that back there? Stop. You know what most people will say? What kind of microphone back there? Is that a Yeti? Like if you're going to ask, is that a Yeti? Do that first. But don't say what kind of microphone back there and then say, is that a Yeti? Because you know what the answer is? Yes.
Yeah. Yes, very true. Yes.
That's why. And that's people do it all the time. I watch people answer the guest questions for them. And I'm like, oh, please, no, don't do that.
I was gonna say I put that back there to mess with Steve Worthy because me and him have jokes about Yetis. But anyway, no. So, all right. Let's see. Next up, be specific and detailed. So just give your questions a lot of detail so that they really know what you're trying to get out of them, and so definitely, what's kind of your approach for composing questions, Doc? I mean, how do you really hit somebody with a detailed question and really get them to give you good information back?
Again, part of that has to do with trying to dig deeper with them from a personality standpoint. So one of the ways, okay, here's a prime example. This is going to make this so easy for everyone in here, because I'm pretty sure everyone in here has spent at least 5 minutes playing with ChatGPT. If you ask ChatGPT a really simple question, you're going to get a dumb answer. But if you give ChatGPT some detail when you ask the question, you're going to get phenomenal answers. And you're going to be like, I didn't even think that all the way through. Right. So it is very much the same. And I'll pick on us this time. For everybody in here that has a person that lives on the other side of the house, when you go to ask her a question, make sure you give her as much detail as possible. Otherwise, you're gonna get an answer you didn't want, and then that is the number one cause of trouble in matrimony, is people aren't clear in their communication. So if you ask better questions, you can save the matrimonial discourse.
Yes, spouses are. It's all about the prompts.
Yeah, it's like ChatGPT. It's exactly the same. Oh, okay. Every dude in here. Now I'm gonna pick on those dudes in here, but every dude in here be like, "Hey, what you want to eat?" And then she said, "I don't know." And then you said, "What do you mean you don't know? Let's pick somewhere to eat." No. You pick whatever you want. I'll be cool with that. And you're like, "All right, bet. Let's go to Pizza Hut." I don't want to eat that. Well, let's go to CPK. I don't want to eat that. Well, let's go to Roy's Tacos. Nope, don't want to eat that neither. Well, what do you want? I don't know. Whatever you want. Just go ahead and pick. Every dude in here been through that. Yeah, so now what I say is, hey, listen, do you want to go get chili salad, CPK, grab some fresh sushi, or go to ramen? Take your pick. Easy. I gave options. She will select from that. Rarely, if ever. Now, we're talking a highly intelligent individual, master's degree, black belt in karate, one of the top realtors in the state. But you know what? If I give her 5 choices, she never adds a 6. She picks from the 5. That is called jujitsu, people. Step up.
All right, let's shout out some folks out here. There's Dagan in the house. How you doing tonight? James Hicks. Definitely a troublemaker there. But anyway, you, me, and Oben right now.
Dude, my Oben is out of reach, but my Callan 12 is right here, though.
Whip Prophet out there, how you doing tonight? Tina, how you doing out there? She's saying hi to us and Doc Rock and James. They can say hi to Tina. Steve Worthy, what's going on? Roy, James 6, Tina Wakanobi. Do you give your guests your questions beforehand? So, yes. No.
Never that. Never that. I get irritated when they ask. I just ignore them. I'm not doing a rehearsal. I'm doing an interview. Yeah. And your stories, your connection to your guest connection to the audience, that level of intimacy, vulnerability, character, drive, happiness, sadness, the whole 9 yards, all of that goes right out the window if everybody knows exactly what the questions and answers are. It just doesn't work. They sound really, I don't know, they sound weird, bro. I can't even describe it. I can always tell when a person has been pre-given the questions.
Yeah, I mean, that takes some of the fun out of it for sure. So, Tina saying hi to Steve. Let's see. 100% curiosity is the key to interviews. Absolutely. You've got to stay curious. Doc saying hi to Steve. Sammy Superstar in the house. How you doing, man? I like easy. My wife says preach it. Hey, folks, take for your knees. Welcome. Hey, Lala, how you doing tonight?
I didn't mean to get you in. I didn't want to get you in trouble, Roy. Donna, don't look at my address in his address book.
No. She knows. We've talked about this. Like, for example, I figured out what restaurant she didn't like. So when she didn't know what she wanted, I would say, let's go to that restaurant so and so that I knew she didn't like. No, I don't want to go there. Let's go here instead. So I learned that, but then she switched gears on me. She started liking that restaurant again, and so I stopped offering that one. So yeah, so yeah, yeah. Once you figure somebody out, you got them. You don't have them figured out.
No, dude, we would never get it right. No matter what we do, we'll never get it right. My favorite thing is I could tell Karen that Roy has a Google sign in his office, and she did not believe me. But Steve could tell Karen Roy has a Google. She's like, "What? Really? A Google sign? That's incredible!" Like that one cracks me up, and I just learned to stop messing with that one. That one's never going away.
Oh, okay.
I bet you we do the same thing. We just don't notice
do.
it. All right, I'm gonna put
Yeah.
money on it.
I do that to my wife because I said I'm not from Missouri, but I might as well be from the show me state because she'll tell me something, but I'm a news junkie and she'll tell me about something. I've got to go look it up and find out the 14 things about it that she didn't tell me. So yeah, you're spot on. Let's see. Dagan asks, as an interviewee, if you know your subject matter, you shouldn't need the questions prior. Well, that's true. That's true.
True story.
Hopefully you're not bringing the plumber on to ask them questions about ballet dancing. So, hopefully you're bringing on the guest that matches the topic you're talking about. So, that's that kind of stuff. So, all right, I'm going to hit the boards again. Whoops. Let's try this one more time. All right. So, next up, use follow-up questions. So, as soon as somebody gives you an answer, I try to hit them up immediately with a question about that same thing if it feels like it's going to move the conversation forward. Because my goal, and Doc, I know you and I have talked about this, the goal is provide information for our audience that's out there. That is what we've got a guest on, and we want to get fantastic information that's going to benefit our community. That's.
You're driving
stuff there, yeah,
right. You're driving. So if someone gives a good answer, and you can just tell, oftentimes, right? You can tell from the feedback from your audience, oh, this is going in a good direction. So we can take it a little further, or we can, pull somebody up from the audience, like you just did, when you were talking to the beard wonder over here at BBG Grooming. If an interview, right, that's a good comment. So we can play upon that and continue to move forward, right? So yeah, I really like to ask follow-up questions. And I always get irritated when you're watching the interview and they got you and you're on the hook and you're ready for the next one, and then they switch the subject. I'm like, wait, I was ready. Like, I was expecting the next question, but that's because they're like promoting a book or a movie, and they don't think they have enough time. So they just change gears in the middle. And I'm like, don't do that. I need more.
Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier. We were talking. So, by the way, your day one journal tutorial is still a good tutorial. How often do you write in your journal? So you mentioned that you write in your journal.
Daily. It's funny. When the app came out, I got the app, 2011, 2012. That's probably one of my older videos on the channel. And I love that app. And I don't even use the journal prompts anymore, but I think two things that are super important about journaling. One, it does help you stay curious because you start thinking about what to do next, because you want to have something to put in your journal, right? So it makes it harder to have one of those days where you don't do anything because you don't have nothing to write about in your journal. You're letting your own self down. So one, starting it causes you to move more. You're more like shark swimmer. Number two, my favorite thing, and I've mentioned this to everyone that's in my class, it's fun to look back 6 months ago and be like, what the heck was I tripping about back then? Because it was so easy. I can't believe I thought that was going to be more difficult than it really was. Now, the next time you come up upon a difficult situation, you understand your own capabilities better because you can look back and remind yourself how many times you've, overcome that particular obstacle. So I crack up when I have certain friends that have the same reactions to an obstacle. And I'm like, bruh, you literally just went through this 3 months ago. Oh, yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? It's just the colors were different, so they're thinking it's a whole different problem. So that's a couple of reasons why I like the journal. It's very good to help you understand your self growth, and it's also good to remind you to keep moving, keep doing something. It gives you something to write about, and it's easier than you think. It seems hard. You can start out with a couple sentences, bro. It won't be but a week. Next thing you know, you whole page in it. You're like, oh yeah, and then she said, and I told her I'd leave my socks in the living room if I feel. And then the roundhouse kick, I will never say that again.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if years from now when people find my journal, like, man, I can't believe you wrote that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. But
Yeah,
what happens in your
I
journal
don't
stays in
I
your journal
don't
until you're
write it.
dead.
Yeah, I don't write it for the point of assuming anybody else will ever see it. One of the great things about digital journal, they ain't getting in because it's
Yeah.
passworded. And the
Yeah.
password's not written down anywhere. But if you're a person that has children's, maybe you should write memoir oriented journals that you hope they're going to find out. You won't be around to hear the backlash, but it's a good insight into what you were thinking. And from those journals of people that are no longer with us, we have made some of our greatest discoveries or, adjustments, things like that. So hey, some of y'all go to a building every day to read a 2,000-year-old journal written by a bunch of disciples of this dude. Just saying.
That's true. That's true. All right. Next up. So, through your questions, it's really good to try to encourage storytelling. So, I mean, definitely, like you were just, telling us about, your journaling and that type of thing. And I've been trying. I have the day one journal as well. I like the fact that I can send a text message to it and start an entry sometimes. Though after 10 days, it gets tired of me and it stops sending me texts. So I'm like, I got to get back to it. Yeah. But I mean, so how do you kind of craft your questions to get people to really storytell when you're asking questions?
This is really good question. I like this question. Okay. So one of the things that I find easiest is to ask them for a recall story first, right? That gets them in the process of being able to do this, right? So let's say you've been in IT for a very long time. Roy, what is the one thing in IT that you were a little iffy about in the beginning or didn't think it would make it or just thought it might be problematic, but it is basically everyday fare now? And like how do you look at that past time and just see where you thought about it to where it is now?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I'm like thinking of all the stuff I've been through. Um, my favorite software product is a product called Zerto. I've used that to migrate so many data centers from one location to another, and that is one of the most bulletproof products I've ever used. And so, when I first was told about it, I said, "Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work. How's that work?" And then it just amazed the heck out of me. It's a stupidly expensive product, but it works so well you don't care that you paid too much for it. So
There you go.
that's yeah,
That's good. And see, it's funny because when you think about it, you're causing a person to do a recall. And then
yeah,
once you crack that first recall, then your follow-up question can be, okay, can you tell me of a particular time where it basically saved your bacon? And you're
yeah,
like, oh yeah, back in 1932. You know what I mean? So this is how.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Good stuff. Um, the other part is ask for practical advice. So I mean, you got a guest. They're obviously an expert on something, and you can help your community because you can ask them questions about the things that they do. Give us practical advice. Um, you know, later on, I'll ask you some stuff about, exactly. I mean, like, how do you keep motivated and focused with your content creation? And you kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, but how do you stay focused so that you can keep creating content?
Oh, man, here's a practical advice for you. I do not create content for myself. I create content for y'all. So when I feel like, oh, I would tell you point blank, this is so crazy. Last night, I'm sitting in my office. I was working a little bit late. I got done around about 10. And then I was like, I don't really have anything for tomorrow. I don't want to do another Q&A. I want to do something good. I had nothing. I was just about to make the Q&A thing, and I said, you know what? Rather than post up for a Q&A, I'm gonna just let this sit. I can always post up. It's going to be a Q&A during the flow. While I'm recording the flow with Louise, I can schedule it live in between questions. So I'm gonna just let it marinate. Then I go away, and then I woke up this morning and Apple said, "Hey man, Final Cut for the iPad." And I was like, "Cheers, y'all." Sometimes if you let it marinate, right, that flavor is better. So I was about to mail one in, which is still good, but I do it for you guys, right? So
Mhm.
part of my thinking is, what would Lala feel if I don't give that extra piece of information? What would James feel if I don't give this information? So I'm not creating for me, I'm creating for y'all. And as long as you do that, it's no different than wanting to show up for your family. Showing up for your friends is no different than wanting to show up for your family. They are the family that you chose. Sometimes they're better than the one that you got given. So I don't want to leave Miguel and James, Corey. I don't want to leave y'all hanging. So I'm gonna go make that content. So I'm Tinkerbell juiced by y'all, straight up. And I have a
Yeah.
purpose. So that's the other thing too. That's I short sighted that one, but the purpose is very important as well.
Well, that definitely goes back to what's your why for content creation. If you're creating it for yourself, you're gonna run out of content quick.
Hmm.
Yeah, because But then if you're creating it for a community or for an audience, then that's exciting stuff. Because those messages in the comments when somebody says like today I got a comment, hey, that was exactly what I needed. That was a big help. I live for that. That is what I live for when I do these videos. When I do content, I'm trying to help other people out. When I get content like comments like that, that's what I live for. That's just amazing stuff to me. And I'm like, man, I am so glad that helped you. Is there anything else you need help with? What other stuff would you like to see? So that's that's my favorite part of this whole process. All right, you got to be flexible and adaptable. So things go off the rails. So, have you ever had a guest that was combative, and how did you deal with that?
I'm the combative one. So I never have to worry about them. I can combat right back. No, actually, no, I haven't actually. I think part of the reason why, well, okay, I take that back. I haven't as far as tech goes. When I was in radio, all the time, right? Because the label told them to come and do this interview for the concert. They didn't want to be there. We're in Hawaii. They wanted to be at the beach or at the hotel or, doing something crazy. So in that particular situation, I have had that happen. But again, 9 times out of 10, if you've done your research, you know how to pull something up that's going to get them back into a happy place, right? And if they're combative, as long as you're on the side of your audience and you are defending your audience or whatever, then I think you'll be fine. You never really have to worry about it. Most of us aren't in the situation to deal with combative people very often. But again, as long as you're bringing value to your audience and you protect your audience, don't worry about that person's feeling. Protect your audience at all costs.
Who are some people that you just think are just fantastic? You mentioned earlier about the Bruce Lee interview that you shared. Who are some people that are just fantastic interviewing that you recommend folks just kind of hunt down and go see examples that they've done to really master their interviewing skills?
One of my favorite interviewers is Stephen Colbert. He's just funny. He's really good at it. He brings a level of, how Alec is just a happy guy. Everybody could be friends with Alec, right? Steve gives that kind of personality off. So I think, he makes a good interview person because everybody for the most part is, on a good relationship with him. I think over the years, Jimmy Kimmel has gotten better. Fallon, not so much, believe it or not. Fallon is kind of a dweeb, but he's our dweeb and we like him, so we'll watch him. Yeah, Fallon just goes like left, right, sideways too much. He's a little weird. Um, of course, Oprah was always one of the best, you know, and to get away from those standard folks, I like listen to like people on NPR. Kara Swisher is good. Ivan Glass is good. Michael Abendrod is good. So listen to your NPR guys, some of your NYT guys. You'll find some good folks out there.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, an interviewer that blows my mind is the guy on Hot Wings.
Oh yes, Sean. That's the one I
Sean,
was trying to think of. Yeah,
man,
Sean is good. He is good.
that the research him and his brother do for the shows just blows my
Bruh.
mind. They're like, "Where
Yeah.
did you get that from?" I'm like, I love seeing the guests just get just knocked off their socks. Like, where'd you find that? So they must have like an incredible staff to do the research like that. So it's just amazing stuff. So I've really big fan of that show now and watch his interview style and just amazed by that stuff.
No, you know what's so funny though? I started saving them, and you're gonna laugh at this. I started saving those interviews until I go get a 20-piece from either Wingstop or from the Korean chicken wing spot down the street from me, which is called KFC. It's Korean fried chicken. Yo, I feel like I get a different experience when I'm in like the the butter pepperjawn, the garlic butter pepperjawn one,
Yeah.
or the habanero wings. I feel like I'm in there with them when I'm having the wings. So I'll order wings when I watch the episodes now, which is really crazy. But
I've definitely been eating a lot more hot wings the last 6 months since I started watching the show. I actually went and got some of the frozen chicken that comes with they'll have like the bomb and a couple other bottles, and like, okay, the chicken's not amazing, but the sauce is good. So yeah, that's, at least I don't think it is. Let's see
and
what
that's
else we
what's
got
good
here.
about traveling is trying local
Yeah.
hot sauces. Whenever I travel, I go, so let me see what is the hot sauce of your region. I want to sample it real quick.
See, so have you ever heard of Dave's Insanity Sauce?
Yes.
Okay. So we used to have a chili party every once in a while at work, and so, but one of the sometimes the chili wouldn't be very spicy, so we had all these hot sauces, and one of my coworkers had gotten Dave's Insanity Sauce, and one of the other team members grabbed that bottle, and he's like, "Hey, you want to be careful? That is super hot." He's like, "I can handle it," and he literally just loads it up. And then he begins eating it, and you can tell that he is just continuing to eat it because his pride is on the line, and he has no choice but to eat it because he made such a big. Oh, I can handle hot stuff, so I'm dying laughing on the inside. I'm like, oh man.
See, okay, I want everybody to take note of what just happened. Number one, Roy tells the story. Number two, Jason comes in the chat and goes to Dave's insanity story because Jason must have heard this one before. But now the combination of Roy telling the story and Jason commenting on the story, now I'm all ears because every one of us has a friend or a coworker, or just for me, I was working at a restaurant and we had a customer that was just talking crap about how hot they could take it. And okay, they kind of peed off the kitchen, and the kitchen set them up. And that dude was trying his hardest to hold it in and look like, well, you could tell the minute you see sweat bubbles topping on the top of their head, you know it's hot. I don't care what they say. Like, watch the Idris Elba episode where he's like, man, I'm Nigerian. I can handle the hot. He got to like sauce number 7, and he was like, good Lord, good Lord. And then Kristen Bell is a tiny little sweet old thing, and she demolished them wings. Right? She demolished the whole thing and be like, we done? So don't listen to macho dudes talking spicy. No pun intended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely hilarious. Oh, yeah. We have this. Yeah. And then Dave Grohl, he was on just like, oh, yeah, I do this sauce every morning. He was talking about the bomb. He did it like every morning or something. I was like, oh, man. So, yeah, that's a great show. Definitely learn about interviewing. Whit wants to know, do we pre-coordinate with Doc on his color scheme and borders?
Weren't me.
I know that Doc used a lot of purple in his show. I also know that having spent so much time in Japan, that patterns and influences, so I decided for backgrounds I would do things that had a Japanese influence. So yeah, I overthink things like that. So cool. Thanks for noticing that. That's just something I do.
And those chrysanthemums on your desktop, it's a botan in Japanese.
Botan.
There you go.
Baton.
Now you know.
Yeah. Steve says, great content, fellas. Hey, I was going to look to see if I had any questions out there, but definitely loves color coordination indeed. Yeah. Yep, definitely. So learn a live stream with John Lacey. He says we'll record videos as a family, as oral family history. So that is definitely a really good thing to do. Definitely, if you, especially if your parents are much older and you still have an opportunity to ask them, tell me about your childhood and that time of thing, and record it. You will love that. I guess this is referring back to when we were talking about journaling and journaling specifically for our kids. So.
Well, that, and also to not wait until you're dead to find out what those stories is. John I really appreciate John bringing that back up again because it's been a minute. But I did a documentary for some of the early people that came to Hawaii, like because Hawaii was into very much sugar cane and pineapples back in the day. So for the Dole cannery side of the business, I was in Lanai, which is a smaller island. It's mostly a farm island, and I interviewed all the octogenarians about when they came. Man, it was such a dope project. I'm in there with my camera, sitting down. I got everybody mic'd up. We're asking them questions. They're telling us all these stories, and I swear, like every other story, we like, all right, if you could just say that last part again, because, there's 3-man crew, bro. We all just burly dudes like tearing up as the OGs was telling stories, or just like smiling and tripping, like they remember the exact date they came in. Yeah, it was an amazing project. So thank you for mentioning that, Mr. Lacey.
Yeah. Let's see. Hang on. Just discovered iRun is free software to use on your phone as a webcam. Very cool. Oh, that's good to know. Let's see. When a guest tries to take over an interview, meaning talking too much or don't know when to pause and breathe, how do you take control back?
Oh, super easy. Okay, wait. Hey, we need to put a pin in that for a second because we have some other points we have to get to. And I swear, if there's enough time, we'll come back to this. But I love where this is going. We might just have to make this a part 2. And they always say, yeah. You know what I mean? So just super simple.
You're welcome to the show anytime, Doc.
Yeah, just cut them off. Be like, peace out. Siri, stop talking. Roy's not asking you questions.
So I have a Google Mini and I have an Alexa device on my desk, so they jump in the conversations all the time. So it's pretty funny. Yeah, that's definitely good stuff there. Definitely. Let's see. Ask them put a pin. Yep, I like that. That's a good approach. Let's see. How do you stop yourself? Hang on, let me change scenes there, where I don't stomp on us. How do you stop yourself from taking the limelight from your guest by being lengthy with your own story to the same question you throw at your guest? And this is Tina reminding me not to do that. So.
No, I think it's sharing, right? And a lot of okay, you are building a relationship with your guests, and you're hoping that your audience can build a relationship with your guests. So it is important for you sometimes to build that relationship with your guests. The other thing that turns out, if you'll notice, certain talk show hosts, they have the same guest on at least 2-3 times a year because they just hit it off really, really well, right? And part of that is because they built that relationship with the guest. So I don't think it's a thing. As a matter of fact, I think what happens is sometimes the host doesn't say enough, and they're a guest. It's your show. You are entertaining your audience. You're bringing the guest to add value, but it's actually your show. So don't be afraid of that. Find a way to keep it balanced, or just make sure the audience is getting what they want. As long as they're getting what they want, it's all good in the hood.
Yeah, cool. So don't tell me you can't tell me your top favorite, but who are some of your favorite people that you've ever interviewed?
That is a tough one. Good Lord.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask you your favorite because I didn't want to single anybody out, but definitely or maybe it's an interview that really, wow, maybe that wasn't the best guess, but man, that interview was amazing. You really were surprised by where it went. What's an example of that?
One of my really fun interviews was with Nikki, just because, she's just an amazing individual in general. So I have fun interviewing Nikki. Back in my radio days, I would say at the time it was probably Lisa, from Lisa and the Cult Jam.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I don't know if it's because it was a good interview or not. I was like 20, I was just like, and she was talking, and I was like, uh-huh, yes, yes. Like she was beautiful. I was brand new into radio.
Yeah.
But no, that was a very interesting interview just because. And then I was on the show floor at CES, what is called Comdax back in the day.
Yeah.
Sorry, James Hicks, we're telling on ourselves. But this was like circa 94, 95, and I had a chance to interview John Warnock, um,
Mhm.
at Adobe, the main
Yeah.
guy, and then we got interview bombed by some dude named Kai, and it was so I was so into my interview and whatever, just laughing at whatever this other guy was saying. When the whole conversation was over, um, John was like, "Well, tell me a little bit about how you use Photoshop right now." I was like, "Oh man, I really love it." And I just downloaded this plugin, KPT, and he's like, "You know what the KPT stands for?" I go, Kai's Power Tools. That was Kai. Oh, dumb. I didn't know it was Kai
Mind blown.
Kraus. I
Yeah.
was like, because not like the internet where you had pictures of everybody and you knew who was who, right? I was just like, he was right, and I didn't. Okay, come back, come back. It was just super funny, but yeah, I think interviewing John, and I actually interviewed for a job there. I got accepted for the job there, and I didn't take it. So it's kind of good thing I didn't. I probably would have still been there somewhere slinging Premiere instead of Final Cut. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of.
So who? I mean, in that same vein, who are some of your influencers or people you consider mentors?
This is going to be a very strange answer. And I mean this in the craziest way. I had the distinction of having too many of my mentors turn out to be D-bags. So when I was getting into video, like hardcore, like I knew I was going to do this for real, I was following a particular creator who I thought was one of the best filmmakers at the time, and he turned out to be not a very nice person. Then I used to follow this other filmmaker, and he turned out to be a nice person. And then one of my favorite interview people backed out today, named after a flower, first name Charlie, also turned out to be not. So you know what? I don't have mentors no more. I am my own mentor. I will try to learn everything I can from everyone. I learn stuff from Lala. I learn stuff from Sammy. Even the young Jedi will say something every once in a while. It's like, you know what, Sammy? That's right. So I find it's better to search for the mentor within. I think there's a book about it. I don't even remember, but I think searching for the mentor within is probably one of the better things you can do, because what happens is we put a lot of faith and energy into looking up to somebody else, and we don't spend enough time looking inward. And I believe that your true hero is hiding inside of you and doesn't need anybody to help you drag it out. You got to drag it out your damn self. Like you don't want but so many people in this planet washing your drawers. I mean, you wash your drawers, you might let Donna wash your drawers, but you don't want nobody else to wash your drawers.
That is
Right?
probably
It's the
true.
same
Yes.
thing, right? So I've learned to stop looking outward, and I try to look inward. And it's only because, Mr. Spacey and Weinstein and Rose just ruined my uh,
Mm,
relationship with people.
I hate that. So, and I can understand where you're coming from. Because you have been so many things. You've been a soldier. You worked in your dad's camera and lighting shop. You've been an Apple guy. You've been a hip hop artist. I was going to ask you about that because I remember hearing you say on a couple occasions your group opened for Run DMZ, and Run DMC, sorry, and sorry
I know what you
DMZ.
meant.
We had DMZ problems at wait.
I know
So
what you
anyway,
meant.
the day
That
job comes in and takes over, but I
running the
know Run
network over
DMC.
here.
So anyway, you've been a professional MC. You've been a disc jockey. DJ. They say disc jockey anymore, but anyway, you're a content creator, motivator, an intimidator. and a tutor, we were kind of talking that you drop truth bombs, and your whole point is that I'm trying to save you, the skint knees or from getting hit by a bus, so I can kind of understand that point. How did all this culminate and you get to where you are right now? And then if you had to go through all of that again to get to here, would you go through that again?
I would do every single one of those steps except for two things. When I was first told back in 1994 that I should take my $40 a month, and with every $40 a month, while the Apple stock is $4, I should buy another 10 stocks. And when it was $4, I didn't. And then when I left the company and they said, okay, if you're going to take journalism, you got to sell all your Apple stock. I did, and it was like $120, and I shouldn't have, because it turns out nobody does, even though you're supposed to, because of ethics reasons. I wasn't really talking about Apple per se. I was talking about things in the Apple ecosystem. So I got rid of all my Apple stock, and I would be rich. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I give you that. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. So
I can handle that. I can handle that.
no, I think it's important that, yeah, like for me, I watched a large portion of my family members and my friends' parents that always had these grandiose ideas and dreams, but they never acted upon any of it. And then I also watched them when they got older, and they were like, oh man, I wish I had gone here. I wish I had gone here. So when I went to Japan, for instance, right, I ended up going in early 2000. But when I first got orders to go, it was like 88, and I didn't want to go. I'm like, whatever, man, I don't want to go. Whatever, I'll stay here at Tripler. So I ended up, working in a hospital here. I turned down my orders to go. I was enough of a soldier that I could get away with going into my captain and be like, I don't want to go here. Can I stay here? And he's like, yeah, let me rearrange it and we'll send somebody else. That was easy for me, right? What was dumb, had I known what I know now, I would have never turned down orders back in 88. Man, I would be at the very beginning of the Japan tech boom. I would have been here from the very, very beginning. I probably would have ended up working for some amazing tech company and things like that. So, yes, uh, I don't have any regrets per se, but I've always taken go into it, hard charge, full on, and be fearless, because nothing's like the people that are scared and they missed out on some of the best parts of life. So I just refuse to do that. Army didn't teach me to do anything. It taught me to be fearless, and I'm gonna stick with that because it's worked out for me. I just don't even. I get irritated at fearful people. You guys know I say some pretty harsh things to people that are fearful, especially when they're like, "Oh, I'm scared of the camera." It's made out of plastic. It is freaking mine's made out of metal. It's a Sony, but I mean, it's primarily plastic, metal, and glass. That thing can't beat your ass. Say some stupid stuff to Donna tonight. That's a problem. You got no reason to be scared of a camera. Like, I don't understand that, right? Or
Yeah.
like, oh, the best one, and I Keith Pelzer teases me all the time for this one. I would tell the people in his group, okay, so let me get this right. All of y'all are pastors, right? Yes, 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 yes. And all of y'all stand there to the word of God and tell everybody to have all of this faith and whatnot. Yeah, yeah. But you don't have faith in your ability to do a live stream. I don't know, man. It sounds a little disingenuous to me. I'm gonna let you marinate on that. Go with God.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. No. That's a valid point. Pray about it before you do it. Then you're supposed to have that strength.
Right? Dude,
Um,
this guy came in the other day, real quick. This guy came in the other day. He said, how do I get a filter for Ecamm to make myself look cute? And, blah, blah, blah. He had a legit question. And I was like, first of all, we don't have these things. Your Sony cameras, every camera, Canon, all of them I know of, they have a thing called skin softening filters built into the camera. Ecamm doesn't have to do that, right? You can also do what I do and use a piece of glass, which I have in the front. I have a 1/8 black Pro Mist. I tell everybody, you get a 1/8 black Pro Mist. But I just looked at your profile. You're a pastor. I think you should go with the skin you in. right? Because I don't know. Last I checked, vanity was on the list. I'm just saying, like, really, you out here worried about how you look? You're supposed to be the preacher, and don't make no sense. I'm sorry. The heathen in me does not understand your hypocrisy. Next point.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. So tell me about your hip hop career, because I was trying to find some stuff about it, and then the other thing I
There
was
was no
looking.
cameras back then, Roy.
There you go. It was funny because I'm looking for you, and I found this Doc Rock guy that's a doctor that's in a band, and I'm like, Doc, you need to. I'm like, you should have trademarked your name. This guy's like,
It was dumb. I didn't think about it. There's another guy who's a geologist, which he might deserve it more. I got it because I was a paramedic in the Army, so we were all called doc. And then
yeah,
there's one of my nurses, she swore I was in a rock and roll band when I was in a hip hop band. And so she used to call me Dr. Rock and Roll. And that name just stuck because the type of soldiers who are very much, your rank goes here, this needs to be this many inches apart, whatever you call the rock soldier. Right. So it's stuck with my whole crew because I was that dude. I was a stickler for regulations and also, the paramedic. So Doc Rock stuck. And yeah, that was just it. Plus, I was the one that always wanted to do the stuff that medics aren't supposed to do. Medics aren't supposed to get, like air assault certified or do like halo jumps, or I wanted to do all of the stuff we weren't supposed to do. We're supposed to stand in the back and just hold the 45 and look cute. I didn't want to do that. So that's how that stuck. Man, it literally started just from honestly boot camp, like rhyming in boot camp and beating on the tables and having fun. And then when I got out, I got my computer, I started trying to make music. And from that, somewhere about the Run DMC age, like I like, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a real deal thing. So me and my friends would just sit around in the barracks and write rhymes. And right when I got out, I had access and time to go to the studio, started producing that first demo, put a whole band together. And then, man, we opened for every major hip hop act all the way up until about 96.
Wow.
I don't think I missed one. We've been through all of them. Casey and JoJo, like even weird ones like Camp Low, like Lucchini, Run DMC, what's the dude, James Todd, LL Cool J,
Yeah.
Lisa, CoverGirl, Sweet Sensation, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. The list is long, including Candyman.
What was your very first YouTube video about? I know you were on before YouTube really figured themselves out and really was a thing. What was your first video about?
My first YouTube video was about digital 8 cameras and using the FireWire cable to connect it to get the video into iMovie. And then, of course, like a dummy, I deleted that. But yeah, that was it. It was about using the IEEE 1394 FireWire cable because, yeah, all right. See, told you I was a nerd.
That was the 6-pin?
Yes,
4-pin.
yes.
That was the 6-pin.
The 4-pin. That was the 6-pin. The 4-pin was the smaller one.
That's right. Yeah. So, see, I had an old, I can't remember what the Mac it was like. Because my first Mac exposure was, I'm over here programming in college, doing Turbo Pascal. So I'm booting off the IBM DOS disk, and then I got to load the Turbo Pascal disk, and I got to write my code. And then right across from it was this monochrome device, a Mac with a squared off mouse. And I go over there and I'm like playing around, and that's like was the most amazing thing to me. I'm like, why are we doing this when we could be doing this?
About the same experience. Right? Just moving the little thing around and clicking stuff. And I was like, whoa.
Oh man, it had a paint program. I was doing all kind of art, and they had a printer, but the printer was just black and white. So it wasn't very pretty, but it's okay. It was grayscale anyway, but
But the opposite was C:\/ Actually, take it back. A:\/ CP *** to B:\/
Yeah.
And then like what? Never again.
But I mean, I did the 2 C's and the 2 E's in high school, the Trash 80s, the Tandy 1000s. I had a Commodore VIC-20, the Commodore 64. What was your first computer?
My first computer was a Trash 80 or a Coco. Actually, it was a Coco, and then it was a TI-4, and then I went to trash 80. But I went through the whole Commodore lineup. I mean, built Amigas for video toasters back in the day. Like I went through the Amiga 500, the Amiga 300, the 1000, the 3000, like all of them. Like I was all about that life. Dang, dude, I miss my Commodore. Commodore was so far ahead of the game right now. Like Apple technically shouldn't exist, but Commodore was hard headed and they didn't read the tea leaves.
Yep. I got a question here from Anna. Any tips about interviewing while you're also managing all the tech?
Mean answer, but I'm a tech person. I can manage tech all day. No, it's practice. It's legit. I mean, stop joking. It is legit practice. First of all, don't worry so much about the tech. If that is going to take you away from your show, do the show where it's just yourself and the guests on the screen with the background and don't touch nothing. They don't got to manage nothing. Now you get to run the show, right? After you get good at that, then you can add an extra thing like bringing up cool questions from nice people like yourself, right? And then after you get good at that, you can manage flipping between a single screen like this or a one shot, going back to a two shot, things like that. So it's just practice. You build up. It's just like swimming or marathoning. Most people don't just get up one day and run all 26 of them miles. You start with a 5K and then you go to a 10K and then you do the whole thing.
Dagan's got our book, The Mentor Within by Rosemary Shapiro. Hang on. Come back. Shapiro Lou just looked it up.
There you go. See?
There you go.
I thought it might have been a book. I read a lot. I don't even can't keep up. I read a lot.
Mommy Guide says, thanks, Doc. I'm so glad I took your interview class. Learned so much. Always constant work in progress. Never perfect, but keeps moving and improving. So, yeah.
Dude,
awesome.
Hands down, one of the best people in the planet is that lady right there.
She is. She is fantastic. She is so awesome at encouraging people. Let's see. I think that's one key ingredient, how effective you are in hosting interviews. You've been doing and exposed to so many things since. So, yeah.
Yes, I think it's very important. If you will not become a good interviewer if you are not naturally outgoing, and the reason for that is one of the best things you can do as an interviewer is be well-rounded yourself, and that's another reason why I like to watch documentaries about stuff I ain't interested in. I like to watch video. Man, this is crazy. I think I told you guys this in interview class. I started watching these two brothers. They're out of Beagle Creek, Kentucky somewhere, and they make shoes. I don't mean like what you think. I mean like Geppetto. Wait, Geppetto, was he a cobbler? No, anyway. They make shoes like from all the way to put the thing down, put the cork in the bottom, like heat the cork up, stretch the leather, like you got to struggle and pull and like put all the pins in the mouth and hammer the nails in. Like they make shoes. And I was like, this is some of the most incredible thing I have ever seen. And I would sit there and watch that forever. And at first, Karen says, you keep watching these videos about these guys making shoes. And then one day, we was on the couch and we watched like 8 of them episodes and they're like 30, 40 minutes a piece. And she was right there with me. Popcorn, everything, like interested. So you'd be surprised at what will catch your eye. So if you don't go out on those journeys of learning, then you will miss out. You're going to have somebody on your program who happens to be a shoe aficionado. They'll put in their bio, oh, I really, really love shoes. And you're going to be able to say, oh, man, I just learned about Goodyear welding and the cork inserts and the difference between a bone structure or a plastic structure or glued on soles. And they'll be like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, I just got these done, blah, blah, blah. So you created a connection. You built a relationship. So that's why.
Yeah. Let's see. Mommy Guy says, my interview with Doc can be a tutorial for many things to do in an interview. Not to do an interview. I embrace the failures as part of learning. I love your podcast. So she's talking to Anna about her podcast she's doing. So that is not true. You know, you just got to let that stuff roll off your back and keep going because you do awesome. So, marinate on that. The quote of the day.
Oh, Ken has a really good statement. Yes, I do this too, Ken. I'll put the guest on. If you run into a tech problem, do what Roy just did. Put me on full screen. What Roy really did at that time was took a sip of his Tennessee sipping whiskey. But normally, just put the guest on, and then you try to sort out the tech while you're in the background. And it can be I just have my allergies attack me dead in the middle of a thing. I'm gonna put Roy full screen, and then I'm gonna be out there blowing my nose and like trying to straighten it all out. So yes, that is true, kid. Good answer.
Yeah, and I was on a show, and they had some questions for me, and then they went off on a tangent, and they just left me on the screen with them, and I'm like, put me away somewhere. Just put yourself full screen because you're just talking. So they talk for like 10 minutes. I'm like, well, I mean, do I make faces? What do I do? Please take me off the screen. I can't even scratch my nose or my ear or anything. I'm just like 10 minutes solid, So, I mean, you got, it's
Yeah,
like that.
every once in a while, these guys will cause a weird ear itch, and you're like, "Oh, I want to get it out, but I got to get to a scene where I can flick it on and real quick and put it back." Like, that's so funny, Roy. You said that. Oh my god, that kills me.
So, all right. So, back in September 2009, you mentioned how you found clarity. You were talking about, a clean desktop space and taking a shower to clean the day off, and the concept of zero inbox and wine on the beach and going out and taking pictures. How do you find your clarity all these years later?
Exactly the same. Ain't nothing changed.
So,
it's written on. Not even trying to be weird about that. It's certain things have gotten better, but it's funny. I mean, you see me when I do the live demo. There's not an icon on my desktop. I can't stand it. Like, I don't know how y'all be doing it. Some of y'all that have all them icons across everything, your mans can't get down like that. I just start losing it. But I know this is crazy. It comes from back in the day. As you only had so much memory, right? See, now we're like out here flexing with a 96 gig Mac Studio, but it used to be you had like a 1 gig machine, and all of those pictures drawing 60 times a second on your desktop is actually occupying some of your memory. So I was like always going to put that away, but like, I just don't like it. So I keep that stuff out. I use a launcher to this day. I do like to put on music and just let that in the dome for a little minute. And something that I bet majority of you in our community don't know about me, except for Eden. Eden knows I will bomb me a classical tune every once in a while just to like reset the nugget. I will get in and get a good classical tune or listen to some acoustic alchemy or some sort of jazz like that. You know what I mean?
So like the music you listen to, does music with people singing mess with your focus?
Nah, not at all. I don't know when people say that. Don't mess with me. But you know me good and dang well that I will kick a verse in the middle of anything. So I guess I should say yes. I should take that answer back and say yes, because in the middle of my stream, you'll say something and then I'll just start busting out words that are, okay. So I take it back. I lied. Yes, it does. 100%.
Well, as you say, it's musical Tourette's. So.
I have musical Tourette's like ain't nobody business. Like, oh my God, it's horrible. Dude,
well,
this is super funny. You know what Karen will do? She'll every once in a while just like do a little half of a hum. And I'm not even paying her any attention, but I'll finish it. So you know how back in the day you go to somebody and go, mana, and somebody would go automatically, right? She'll do stuff like that to me. And then 5 minutes later, I'm whistling that song, right? Hey, now you're an all-star. She's like, got him. I'm like, what do you mean got him? It's like, I didn't even know she dropped the subliminal in my head, like in the kitchen somewhere. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to get that song out of my head. Then I'm walking out the door. Put your game on. Go. Play. Okay, Jesus. Make it stop. Make it stop. So she does that to me.
I have a similar issue. I'll have a song in my head. My wife's like, where the heck did you get that from? I don't know. It's stuck. I got to go make Amazon play it so I can get it out of my head, or Apple or whatever.
That's exactly what I do. I got to play it to get it out of my head.
Yeah. It's got to go, and I got to play something else and reset my brain. So that's, definitely. So Doc, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do. You're just one of my favorite content creators, and I just appreciate all the wisdom that you drop on all the different platforms you're on.
Thank you.
I hear you're going to be in Boston in October.
Yes.
I am
Great
planning on being there. So yeah, Creator Camp. So those of you that are Ecamm fans, Creator Camp is in October, and I'm really excited about all the folks I'm gonna get to meet when I go to Creator Camp in October. So that's gonna be a lot of fun to meet you in person finally. And just think, any last thoughts or wisdom you want to drop on all of us before we go?
Man, the main thing is you just don't stop creating. Like, don't get so caught up in all the things, right? That's slowing down your creating. If it's getting too much for you and you're starting to freak out, take all this stuff, put it back in the box to which it came, start with your iPhone, roll that way for a week, and then start adding the pieces back as you feel necessary. Like, for real, if it really gets to the point where you can't handle it, just hide it from yourself and just use your iPhone until you get yourself back in the fray, and then start adding your pieces and, get your groove back. Like, even Stella had to get her groove back.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, definitely don't let the gear intimidate you.
You know what it reminds me of? You know what it reminds me of? Like, you could pick one of your favorite songs, whatever it is, and then you go hear the unplugged version or the acapella version, and you just like, oh my God, it just hits different.
Yeah.
Do that. Do whatever you do unplugged and watch how it hits different.
Definitely. That's fantastic. I like that. Yeah, because I love to hear the acoustic version of like songs. I'll do play coffee house music, and they're playing acoustic versions of different songs. That's amazing stuff. I have all of Doc's links in the description, but here they are as well. You gotta, if you don't know Doc Rock, what's wrong with you? Go hit those links, and then definitely, if you're a Mac user and you're not using Ecamm, I got one of those affiliate links down in the bottom of the description there. Go click on that and get you a few days of free service. And if you love it like I do, you'll sign up, because it's just the best streaming software for Mac there absolutely is.
And I'll teach you how to use it.
Yeah, and then Doc will give you tutorials on Fridays to show you how to use it. So, yeah, definitely. So definitely follow Doc out there. Doc, thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody have a great night. And yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday, they're telling me. So.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yep.
You know what they say? He got to do it. The boy can't help it.
That's true. Doc, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. I didn't get a chance to say hi to everybody. Florence, I saw you out there. Definitely want to say hi to Jason for popping in. He would show up on the night I'm telling that story about the hot sauce. So, just that mommy guy. Was funny. Just everybody else out there that's out there. If I didn't say hi, definitely hit that like button, but even hit that subscribe button if you will. And that's it. That's our show. We're out of here. Here's that outro thing where I tell you to go watch the next video that YouTube tells you to go watch. So click on that and go watch that, okay? And that's it. Have a great night. Bye.